You see, when we classify various spiritual personalities on the scene, there is a minimum requirement that I insist on. And I always tell our youngsters, please make sure the minimum requirement is fulfilled. The minimum requirement is this: unless the person you are dealing with or interacting with is God realized, you are asking for trouble. It's like blind leading the blind. If your perceptor himself is not God realized, how can he possibly lead you to God realization? It may happen, because you are so devoted, but it's more risky and more difficult. It is very likely that you are taken on a blind tour. So the minimum requirement is that the person that you relate to must be God realized. Now, who passes sentence or who gives marks, credentials to who is God realized? Not me. Why should I take that responsibility? You all have your own rational faculties. Use it to the full to decide for yourself whether a personality is God realized or perhaps is deluded. Sometimes they are self-deluded, and sometimes they are out to delude others. You need to decide. There are certain signs that you can watch out for. One of the most important signs is this: a God-realized person will not just fall back on the scriptures of the ancient times or the teachings of the ancient times. He will come up with a very novel way of presenting spirituality, because it comes from personal experience. It is not book learning. If it is book learning, he'll fall back on the books and say, the scripture says so, Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, he'll keep quoting like that. It's a poor sign, it's a bad sign. I'm not saying that the new teachers have something that is in contradiction with the old scriptures, but I'm saying they will not fall back on it. Once in a while, they might use it for fun, to show a continuity of the process. But otherwise, every time they've opened their mouths, new scriptures formed and presented to mankind, every time. So whenever a personality focuses on just ancient scriptures, watch out, it's a bad sign, it's a poor sign. Here, they are here to present a more evolved, more modern, more relevant face of spirituality. First thing, look, this will immediately, a lot of people that you thought were spiritual, you'll immediately feel, well, I think they're just falling back on the scriptures. The only way they can validate the argument is to quote Bhagavad or Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavad Puran. They will keep doing that, nothing more. This is not a good sign. First thing. Secondly, you see to what extent what they see is exactly how they lead their lives. If a person is God realized, he will not be attracted to worldly objectives. Simple rule. How can he be? That means he's really not tested this superb thing called God. And if he has not tested it, he will of course be easily kind of waylaid by name and fame and money, and these things will immediately attract him. So again, he should not have that kind of strong attraction for worldly objectives. This is the second thing. And again, you see, it is really, as I said, I'm throwing the responsibility to the viewers to decide who they think is God realized and who they think is not God realized. I'm not here to pass sentence on anybody. But it's important to bear this in mind. But this is still the minimum requirement for making spiritual. So you could relate to somebody who is God realized. This is the minimum requirement. Otherwise, you don't start your journey even. But there is a higher requirement, and I'm going to talk about that. You see, when you come across, there's a marvelous example used in this story of Sri Ramakrishna. He said, suppose you are kind of confined in a room with no windows, everything is closed, and somehow you're able to make a hole in the wall. And I'm sure talking about Indian houses made of mud. I'm not talking about brick houses where you need drill to make a hole. Suppose you manage to make a hole in the wall, and you look out and you see the marvelous blue sky, the infinite blue sky stretching forever, the fields, you see that. And you see, this confined room can never reflect that reality. And you are aware of that reality, and you sing and dance, and you get wild because you see this greater reality and you are charged up by it. There are some personalities who reflect that particular perspective. They have had a glimpse of a greater reality. Marvelous they are. Then there are those who make the hole bigger and bigger. They don't just have a little tiny hole where they can just peek through at a greater reality. They like to make a big hole. So they really make, with mud huts, it's possible. So you make a big hole and you go in and out. So he's able to step out and look at the grand sky and say, wow. And then he's able to step back in. He keeps going in and out. These are the second category of spiritual kind of personalities. Now, what is the difference? The first ones are those who are able to experience God for themselves and sing and dance. And all of us watch him and say, what's happened to him? Why is he so excited? Because he's peeked through that hole. And he's excited. But then there are those who are able to kind of stay both in this world and also stay in the world outside, the spiritual world. They are able to step into it at will. At the click of a finger, they can arrive or enter this spiritual realm at the click of a finger. But the story doesn't stop there. If you've only got a small hole, you can just peek through. If you've got a huge hole, not only can you go out, you can hold somebody's hand and take him with you. This is the magic of spirituality. Not just able to see God for yourself or glean a greater reality, but to pass on this experience to others, to be able to take them and lead them to the spiritual realm. This is the kind of category that I am talking about. So it's marvelous to come across spiritual personalities who are God realized and they're dancing and singing and you say, wow, wow, marvelous, it gives us inspiration. Better still is to find somebody who can hold your hand. Ajay, you understand what I'm saying? And pull you through. And there are personalities of that caliber too. And this guy is in that caliber. He himself gave an example. He was not talking about himself. He was very self-effacing, very humble person. He never made any claims about himself throughout his life. Other people would do it and they would smile. He gave an example. He said, you see, when you go to a river, you see various things floating by. You might see little kind of, blade of grass floating by. If you try and hold it and try and swim by holding on to that little blade of grass, you will sink. A little twig passing by. Hold it, you would sink. There might be a little larger piece of wood and maybe it will carry one person who can just kind of hang on to it and go across. But then once in a while, you got huge logs flowing past, huge ones, huge circumference, like the redwoods in the United States, huge ones floating by. And there are lots of people clinging on to them happily. They can take loads with them, not one or two. Loads can be carried. I'm talking of this kind of huge logs who are able to draw many people across the sea of the ocean of life. These are the marvelous, wondrous personalities who come once in a while, who can not only inspire, but pull us through the nose, put a ring around our nose and pull us through and take us to a greater realm. They're able to drag us into the greater realm. These are these kind of personalities. This is the caliber. Why can I say that? If you classify all the lovely personalities, I'm not putting anybody down, God forbid. You see that around certain personalities, whoever came also became God realized. Some of the main disciples of Buddha were also enlightened personalities, like his main chief disciple Anand. They are illumined personalities. Again, when you look at various spiritual giants of ancient and modern India, you find that around them you find personalities who also could claim first-hand experience of God, who could make that claim happily.